I am recording it now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So Deb, I can get right. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was you or maybe one of the field reps mentioned that one of the dealers was using this, and that's what prompted kind of the desire to learn more about it. Am I right there? Am I on the right track?
Yes, you are on the right track. So this kind of ladders up to a bigger initiative of our field team. So, you guys know how we typically work with our stores, and a lot of our conversations most of our conversations typically surround, the front of the house. But obviously fixed ops has always been a really important part of the dealer's profit center, but it's becoming more and more of a bigger part of their marketing mix, as I'm sure your team is fully aware of. And it's something that we're starting to talk with our dealers more and more about. So the purpose of today is just to familiarize ourselves a little bit more with your fixed ops solutions and your service drive program. Janine had actually forwarded me over a deck that was previously shared with her. So just kind of wanted to dive into the service drive tool a little bit more and, see if you're currently working with any of our dealers in this capacity, and kind of how you merge, what you're doing on the fixed ops side with the front of the house as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, speaking candidly, as you probably know, I tend to do, we saw the same opportunity here, hence the whole reason why we did this, right? So when we looked at the mix of media with our dealers, and, when we looked at, how can we help them, and I'm going to say the dirty C word once, but I won't repeat it again. But, obviously dealing with COVID, we had to really put to task, how do we best deal with the current situation, and how do we help our dealers? And like you said, there was a significant opportunity to help with fixed. And the thing that, I wanted to focus on as I was helping, Stream put this together, is honestly something that I learned a long time ago, and it's not new to probably any of us on the phone, but fixed is sanity and variable is vanity. And what I mean by that is, fixed is what pays the bills, and variable is just cake for a lot of dealers after the fact. So how can we make something, again, during this unique time, that's going to help a dealer, stay profitable, recover some profitability, and then, really just, again, give them more opportunities on the variable side. So hence this product was created. And really, being honest, it's not a, super scientific or overly developed thing. In reality, it's just a mixture of mediums that we know work very, very well, and with some data and with some, just some science behind it, it does what we need it to do. So not to get too decky, but I will just go into, this is the same deck we would show a client. So I thought this would be appropriate. So, this slide here just kind of articulates again what I just said. I'll leave this up so that somebody could read it or digest it the way they want to after the fact. But the purpose of us doing this is exactly what I just stated. We want to help our clients, drive additional customer pay and warranty pay revenue to the facility. That's an obvious. The plan of attack here is we use a number of different factors to determine who we're going to go after and how we're going to go after them. And then the payoff is, we want to recover lost service revenue for our clients. And by that, I mean, we want to recover, service revenue that was once in the store at some point, but for some reason just hasn't been there within the time period we think is appropriate. Again, we want to increase customer pay and warranty pay. We want to, of course, help them with service retention, and then just drive business to the shop. So hopefully that makes sense. But, again, this is here to be interpreted as anybody wants to. So with respects to the mediums, we use a couple here, but basically we have two versions of Service Drive, which I'll get into later, but basically they all do the same thing with then a couple exceptions in the second version. So Service Drive Express, which is what we call our base package, our base offering, is a email responsive display. I don't mind sharing with you. It's a Google display piece, Google responsive display, and a ringless voicemail. So I believe in the 5 states you guys work with, ringless voicemail is not an issue. It's not like a spam call or a robo dialer. So I think that's what helps get past it. But basically in layman's terms, we take a recording that either we can do or the client can do based on their preference. We drop it on the device of the consumer, and it's a voicemail without the call. So they get the voicemail without any interaction with the store. We also, again, use the email, and then we use the responsive display. The complete pack, which is the upgraded pack, and I think if I'm being modest, 99% of our customers are using complete, is because we add a household component to it. We add direct mail in the form of a postcard like you see an example of here, and then we add video. We take a video that is created here at Stream. We don't apply the cost of production to the customer, so there is no added cost when they choose the video. And then we run that at a geo-addressable level. So again, in layman's terms, we load the manifest that we're gonna go after into our software. That software then identifies these households with their latitude and longitude, and we serve up video like you would see on CNN, ESPN, et cetera, et cetera. I think for the ones that I know of that are using this, like Gastonia, Bill Penny, I don't know the full roster, but the few examples that I can think of offhand, I think again are using this because the way we positioned it with cost is it's kind of like a no-brainer. It almost doesn't make sense to do the Express pack. So, but before I continue, just to kind of give myself a second, do you have any questions up to this point, or is that making sense so far?
No, absolutely makes sense. I'm assuming we're going to get into the targeting and everything a little bit more in depth.
Yep. So these are just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just to give you a quick heads up, we did have Janine and Maddie from 22 join the line as well. I just wanted to give them a quick check. What's
up? How are you guys doing?
Hi there.
Hey. So I'll skip you the samples and stuff. They won't show well across the stream, but I can send you them after the fact. We also then recently, so this is new. We recently created the ability to put in a variable offer. So again, just being fully transparent here, we introduced this product, I want to say probably 3 or 4 months ago. It hasn't been that long. And in its first iteration, it was this example that you see here, which was, really no offer, no coupon or anything like that. It was simply just, we're here. You can choose to interact with us in however you want to, whether it be via, pickup and delivery or, scheduling online. And thank you very much. We've since now improve that, and we still have that if that's how a dealer wants to go, and they don't want to give an offer, or if they want to sweeten it up a little bit, we now have the ability to do a variable offer. So our dealer clients can pick from basically one of 3 offers. It's an oil change, a tire rotation type offer, and an offer stack or a wild card offer. You might hear some people call it that, which is, kind of that typical, I'm sure you guys have seen it, spend X, save Y type thing. So, spend $100, save 10, spend 200, save 25, et cetera, et cetera. So we can now plug that in too, and those get plugged in to all of the assets. So whether it be the direct mail, the email, we don't use it on the display piece because of the way Google's deal kind of works there. It's a little tougher than we'd like it to be. So even without that, we can still put it on the video, the mail, and the email. So 4 of the 5 touch points get the offer on it. And again, these are some examples here. So as far as the targeting, what we do is one of 2 ways we can go about this. If a client is hooked up with us on a DMS connection, and that's 90% of our clients that use ShopperSuite, and if they don't use ShopperSuite with us, it's probably 40% of our other clients. So let's call it 80%. If we have the good fortune of having a DMS connection, we'll just pull the manifest and we cleanse it on our end. It's very simple. There's no interaction with the store. If it's not that case, we can take client supplied data. It's not a big issue for us. It can come from the CRM and the DMS, each one respectively. Just makes it a little bit more difficult. But what we do is we refine it down to same brand owners. So naturally, we don't want to take a Honda, a random used Honda that they sold and target them with the Toyota message, right? So we remove all of those off-brand. We remove any commercial or fleet just because we number one, we can't mail those individuals with a decent amount of success. So we get them out of the pool. So once we remove all that, it's basically your same brand Toyota owners that have not returned to the store for a period of 6 to 23 months. The reason we chose that period, and thinking specific to Toyota, but also just kind of generally for all brands, with Toyota Care Redemption, that's the reason that time frame felt appropriate, because even after the first service, as you guys know, the redemption rates drop off, right? So that 6 to 23 month window felt appropriate. For the other majors that we serve, the average interval, again, is 8 to 9 months, right? So again, if they haven't been back in 6, 7, 8, 9, and obviously further and further, they fall in that window of they've been to the store before, they haven't returned, we deem them, quote, lost, and we go after them with these things. So I'll take a break there since you asked about targeting specifically. Does that make sense?
It does. I have a couple questions.
Yep.
So in addition to doing defectors within the period of 6 to 12 months, are you doing any other targeting? Are you creating any other audience? Let's say if they're coming up on their Toyota Care or ToyoGuard expiration, are you doing anything, over and beyond just the 6 to 12 months defectors?
Yeah. So, and it's 6 to 23, but in its current iteration, no. We rely solely on that. And the reason being is because, on average, and I would say this has been true for all brands, not just yours. But let's say, for example, a dealer has 10,000 records in their DMS. I could flip a coin and 8 times out of 10, it'll land on heads. And what I mean by that is 8 times out of 10, a dealer's DMS is going to be split with about 50% of their customers that routinely come back, about 30% that fall into this loss category, and about 20% fall into just unrecoverable, meaning they either, bought from Toyota of South Florida and then now live in Charlotte, right? That's an unrecoverable customer. Or again, they've just defected for whatever reason it is. So kind of applying that 50, 30, 20 rule, if I'm focusing on the 30, I have more than enough opportunity. With that being said as well, if we add additional nuanced audiences or if we expand that, we ultimately water down the effectiveness of this, because keep in mind with the video product, for example, we want obviously a certain frequency there. So if I add another 10,000, 20,000 to the denominator, now I get a frequency of 1x versus a 3 or 4x that I could normally achieve, less effective. Same thing with the mail. We only mail a certain amount of individuals. So if I add another 10x, 20x to the denominator, it might take 7 to 10 months before I even speak to that person because we mail on a rotation. So that's a long-winded, just trying to be very thorough for you and somebody who listens to this post. But the shorter answer is no. Right now, we only look at the individual who has fallen into that window of 6 to 2 years.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for clarifying that. Clearly, I wrote down.
No, it's all
The wrong
good.
number.
Yeah, no sweat.
Thank you.
Plus,
So,
I'll chalk that up to Zoom, not articulating what I wanted to. So.
Another question in terms of the data cleanse. So I know that you mentioned that if you do have if you're hooked up to the DMS, you do cleanse the data. So what does the data cleanse look like? And are you able to identify potential subsequent owners to say, you know, I drive a Toyota RAV4 right now, but then, you know, I go and sell that and now I drive a Highlander. Are you able to kind of see my you know, my new vehicle and ensure that I'm not getting targeted the incorrect communication?
Yeah, good question. So it's unfortunately not that scientific. What we do is when we pull the DMS down, or even if it's client provided data, client supplied data, we basically do some pretty standard filters on it to remove duplicates, again, remove businesses, remove the Hondas and the like. Do we pick up on registration changes or, you know, sales transactions like that? Unfortunately, no, we do not. So there does exist the possibility of a record that we see in there, you know, that to us owns, you know, 2018 Toyota Camry, but they've since come in and gotten rid of that vehicle. So that still does exist. Unfortunately, we don't have the measures, at least right now, to eliminate that. From a conquest perspective, we focus primarily on the storage DMS, but there is a little bit of an element on conquest, and I think that's what you asked. If it's not, just feel free to cut me off. But with conquest, what we do is that's where the Google piece comes into play. So what we do is we set it up with brand-specific keywords and indicators. So by virtue of that, there's a chance that we target somebody that's outside of that pool, right? So if within that area or within that dealer's targeting, and we set it up to 10 miles by default, however, that's based on, you know, where they are, how rural, or, you know, if you're using again, let's go back to Toyota, South Florida, obviously massive metro dealer, 10 miles is probably inappropriate, right? But to that point, we set up that radius around the store, and then we use those brand specific keywords and targeting. So if somebody is searching for these products and services, there is a chance we'll pick up somebody that's not in our database. But as far as the database is specifically concerned, it's reliant on what we get. And then again, based on what we can manipulate on our end, we try to remove the dupes and the bad records as best as we can. But I'd be lying if I said we don't get them all. There still exists the possibility of messaging somebody who has either, again, traded the car, sold the car, or whatever. Now, taking that up just a step further, if it's reported back to us, whether by means of the customer or the dealer, understandably, we can get rid of the record. But until that happens, that possibility does still exist.
Got it. Thank you. And then one more question, and this is in terms of the offers. So this is going back to the variable offer slide. So understood that you do the variable offers and you're doing it for some of those key services. Can you do updated offers if there's, say, a parts and service event?
Probably, and I say it that way because I haven't encountered that yet. But I don't see why not. So if you haven't already figured out, it's probably a little transparent here, but these are templated things, right? So can the template be changed or can it be improved upon? Yeah, for sure. What we really honestly wanted to eliminate, and I don't know if y'all have dealt with this, but I certainly have, we didn't want dealers changing the stuff up a million times over because, as you guys know, that just waters it down and makes it less effective. And we also didn't want dealers telling us to advertise, battery inspections and the services that people don't buy, right? Like I had a store out on the West Coast who shall remain nameless that wanted to do the in-cabin micro. Like, dude, I understand you make margin on that, but people don't know that they need to buy that. Like, let your service writers upsell that. I need you to focus on the oil change, the tire, the stuff that people know that they need, right? So that's the reason we kind of went down this more templated path. But that being said, if there was like a major initiative that needed to be supported, or, if we see globally, for example, that Toyota is doing, you guys normally do the buy 3 tires, get one for $1 or something like that, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I mean, naturally, I'm totally a believer of the do in advance what you know in advance. So if we know in advance that a big event's coming, I'm sure we could help by creating a template to support that.
That's great. You answered my follow-up question too, because I was going to ask about, how customizable is the creative. So that was really good context for both of my questions.
Okay.
Yeah. As you're well aware with SAT, we have a couple national parts and service events that pretty much follow the same cadence year to year. Especially this year, it's been, increasingly important to just drive that incremental business into the sales department, when dealers for a large part, not fully operational on the variable side of the house. So
sure.
Part service offers were something we were really pushing in the, Q2. So.
Yeah. And I mean, like honoring the absent with the case of the Mercedes dealer, but I mean, I think it's no mystery that these guys need help. Right. And what I mean by that is, they'll wake up thinking that a microfilter offer is the way to go. And God, if they could slap it on 1,000 postcards, they would. But as we all know, it's just probably not the best use of the time or the space. So that was something that I focused on when I was tasked with putting this together, because I wanted to make it easy and scalable, of course, for Stream. And that's a selfish thing, obviously. But at the same time, for a dealer, I just wanted to make it so easy that, like, please put little effort into this. Put effort into talking to customers. Put effort into, making your store look beautiful and your employees happy and all of those things. Let me handle this. And let me talk you off the ledge of advertising an offer that you think is good when in reality doesn't convert. And that was the goal with this. And what we've seen so far, and I've got some examples I can share with you if you want to look at it. We've seen pretty good, performance. And like I mentioned before at the beginning, these things aren't new. Just being honest, right? Like you guys have pitched or been pitched direct mail probably 1,000 times. You've probably met with 1 million email vendors, right? So it's nothing new. It's just the way we've kind of put it together and made it simple. And we're just speaking to the right people. And I think that's the key, as you know. The targeting is not as sophisticated as I would want it to be. That's just limitations. But even without super hyper targeting, if we just talk to those customers that fall in that window of, either they're gone or they're about to be gone, you'd be surprised how effective it can be. And thankfully, that's been our experience so far, kind of rounding month 5 on this deal.
Yeah, that's great. So one more quick question about, well, actually 2 more questions. So one about the targeting and then one about, because you had mentioned, success and it looks like your key KPI or your key call to action here is service. Are those some of the key KPIs you're looking at?
Say that again. You broke up just a touch there.
Yeah. So in here, in terms of the CTAs and what KPIs you're measuring, so it looks like scheduled service is the primary CTA, at least on the email template here.
Yep.
What are the main CTA KPIs? Tongue twister.
Yeah,
What
sure.
are the key KPIs that you're measuring? Is it, scheduled service, or is it just kind of different based on the ad
Yep.
unit?
Yeah. I understand the ABCs of your KPI question. So what we did at the beginning is during, again, the early parts of the situation that shall remain nameless, we didn't want to do offers. We didn't want to do, dealers were afraid of the 999s for obvious reasons, right? So we went at it with a two-pronged approach. Can you support virtual pickup, virtual service? Yes or no? If you can, that's the message we're going to send. We're going to send the customer the, hey, you can service with us comfortably. We'll pick up your vehicle. We'll make it happen. If you can't do that, we still want to let them know that you're open for business, that you're safe, and et cetera, et cetera. They have the means to interact with you online. So version 1 was pickup and delivery, kind of that virtual service. Version 2 was online. Those were the messages. Fast forward to the present, we still have those now with the layer of, hey, we've gotten past the initial brunt of this. Can we start putting offers on it? So that hopefully answers the call to action. As far as what we measure, this was something I wanted to make very, very simple. Am I off the PowerPoint and onto an Excel?
I'm still seeing the PowerPoint.
Okay, that's what I was afraid of. Hold on one second. Did that
Here we
fix it?
go.
Okay. So I wanted to make this super, super simple. Feedback from dealers on reporting, it's like, dude, I don't need to know this and that and how many, like they get bottled up in that stuff. So I wanted to look at this from a really academic point of view, and that's how many for how much. So no, we don't measure appointments. No, we don't look at clicks, and because again, when speaking to the audience that we're speaking to, which 9 times out of 10 is either an operator or a service manager, it's the how many for how much. I gave you $2,000 to run this program. What did I get back? So when we run the reports, we look at the total number of services from those individuals that we've spoken to, and we look at the total RO sales in the form of gross. So we don't look at internal. We just simply want to look at, hey, was Deborah targeted? Yes or no? Did she come to the store? Yes or no? And did she transact? Yes or no? And then if she did transact, how much did she spend? So this is obviously a kind of a grandiose example here. This is a rather large dealership, but this is how we report back. Here are the number of services. Here are the total ROs. We do show at I guess the deliverable level, how many matches we've seen, and we go a little bit further into the zips and stuff, but I promise you, everybody looks here. And that's usually where the conversation ends. I gave you X, I got Y in return. Does that answer your questions there?
No, that's great. That's perfect. And I think that you hit on a really key point. I mean, some of these, reporting dashboards can just be so in the weeds and just have so much stuff. And I think it's difficult for dealers, especially, if you're talking to, a fixed ops manager, to be able to decipher what's really important and where the true success lies. So I think that this is great. It's very straightforward, and, I like that you keep it simple.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I wanted to do was, be vendor X who comes with either a big fancy dashboard or, 17 PowerPoint pages and, tries to legitimize the effectiveness of a $2,000 product. Like come on. I mean, that just, it's a lot to deal with. I'll just say that. And I'm sure you guys have seen it. And again, no disservice to other companies that do that. And we have mediums that do the same. There's certain levels of transparency you want to achieve, but in all of my personal experience, and I think that of my constituents, it's almost always the same. I gave you X and I need Y in return. And if these numbers here are not attractive, a dealer's going to unplug it. Or vice versa, right? If these numbers look good and they think they're legitimate, they say, hey, you know what? I spent $2,000. I saw, I'll give you credit for 10% of these because I think I would have gotten them back anyways. You know that conversation. But even then, I still think it's good. Let's keep going. And that's how simple it can and needs to be, in my humble opinion. So that's the direction we're in.
Great.
Did you have any other questions or anything I missed that you wanted me to go over?
No, I mean, was there more in the actual presentation or was that kind of the conclusion?
No, that's the gist of it. There's examples of the videos and the ringless voicemail scripts and how we differentiate the products here. But no, you've gotten the meat and potatoes. So if it's helpful to you, I can send, again, this is what we would show a customer. So this isn't a version specific to this conversation. So I can send this to you if you like. And anything else, I also don't mind sharing these report examples, so I can send those too.
Yeah, all of that would be really helpful. I mean, as you know, it's always helpful for us to have, any literature in our arsenal. So when we go in and talk with the store and they're interested, we can, give them some sort of a leave behind. Okay, well, with that being said, I do have a couple additional questions.
Sure.
So in terms of going back to the targeting conversation, so understood that you're targeting service defectors, within that 6 to 23 month window. Hopefully I got the time period right.
Yep, nailed it.
And so in terms of the offers you're serving them, you said that it's typically the oil change, tire rotation, or stackable offer. So is there any rhyme or reason to what offer they're going to be receiving?
No, and that's a great question. So we don't apply science to it in the sense of you just did service X, so you should get service Y. I think that's what you're asking. I wish I had that capability, just currently don't today. But what we found and kind of what experience tells us is that if they've reached that point of no return, then the offer honestly doesn't need to be scientific. And there's going to certainly be a percentage of those individuals that are like, well, geez, I just did an oil change 3 months ago or 4 months ago. Why am I getting this offer, right? Or in this case, obviously, it would be 6 to 7 months, but you get the point. There will be a percentage that exists there, no doubt about it. But I felt that we couldn't go with the bigger offers or a wider variety of offers for also that exact reason. Because if we tried to be cute and say, well, let's not do oil change because that's your most frequent stuff. And, let's try to do this and that. At a certain point, there needs to be a value proposition for the individual, especially if they're in a status of either I'm about to leave or I've left and it's going to take a lot to convince me to come back. And unfortunately, many times over, it is those either A, very inexpensive things, a la an oil change, or the other form of that is, hey, you take your pick, whatever you get, and I'll just give you a break. Translation, here's your discount in the form of a variable stack, right? So those have proven to be effective, but you're 100% spot on with your question. We don't, unfortunately, look to see what they serviced and then change it after that. We don't do that, just being candid with you.
No worries. I appreciate that context. Thank you. So you kind of hit on a good point. So in terms of messaging, I don't know if you could send me some examples, but if you are kind of, trying to capture those customers back, what does the messaging look like to try to, convince them to come back to the dealership?
Yeah, it's if you go back in the beginning, you'll see a lot of these, and these are small. I might be able to yank down the actual PDFs that you can look at bigger, but the messaging is very simple in the sense of, we miss you, we haven't seen you for a while, please come back. And as simple and as kind of non-scientific as that sounds, the targeting helps us or allows us to be kind of vague with that messaging, versus, again, if we did a very hyper, specific message and or hyper specific audience, we just whittle down the opportunity, I just think, a little bit too much. So the messaging is rather simple. It's, your car probably needs to be serviced. We have the means to help you with it. Either, hey, here's an offer, or B, again, if dealer doesn't want to do offers and they just want to speak in generalities, schedule your appointment or I'll pick up your vehicle, whatever you prefer. So I'll try to yank some of these down. When I'm remote, I don't get great access to our servers and stuff, but if these aren't legible when you get them, just let me know and I'll get you some actuals.
Yeah, I'll take a look when you actually send the PDF, because I'm squinting and I
yeah,
see that well.
And it's probably the feed. So I'll try to get you some actuals. I'll just make a point to get some yanked down for me.
Yeah, that'd be great. And part of, the thought to that question is our messaging, are we kind of giving the customers that sense of, hey, I'm receiving an exclusive offer, because, I've already been there, exclusive kind of like retention offer?
Not in its current iteration, but I like the idea. And it's something that could easily be engineered. So today, no, but tomorrow, maybe, because it's a good idea. Just throwing it out there in prep for this. What I asked our team to do, and it's not ready, but what I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do is make this Toyota specific. So you guys may or may not know, but it's outside of Toyota, so you may not care. But we hooked up with Honda in a really nice capacity in the terms of, being a approved vendor and so on and so forth. So with that being said, we have a version of this that is just Honda specific. So the version that I'm showing you is kind of the general templating that we use for all of our brands. We then, as a part of that relationship, we said, hey, let's make a Honda version. So what I've asked them to do when time allows is, let's make a Toyota version. Just hopeful that either A, this deal grows, or, the Bill Pennies, the Gastonias, et cetera, just have a need for something a little bit more custom. So that's going to be in the works. And then maybe part of that, I can revisit some of the uniqueness of the offer and the messaging. But just to kind of hammer back on that, the video, the mail, the email, I want to drive that to have a more brand specific look, and we're going to plan to move forward in that direction for Toyota, given now that we have a few dealers doing it.
Got it. So I know that we talked about the mediums that are within the Service Drive platform. So you didn't mention paid search or social. So I'm assuming that that's something that you're working on with dealers in a different capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So specific to this conversation, when Brian approached me, he wanted me to talk about this initiative in particular. But that being said, I can speak with confidence about the other stuff. So I cannot imagine there's a dealer that's not supporting service with paid search, with Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So if you guys want to revisit that with us, I mean, we can get the pundits of those different strategies on the phone, but I can tell you with a fairly high degree of certainty that we're doing that for almost all of our dealers across those different mediums.
Great.
We just
I mean,
don't do it as part of this package here.
Yeah, understood. I guess, part of the question is, how does that work in tandem with the service drive to ensure, that we're excluding people if, we're targeting people on service drive and say we have, retargeting on, say social media or search, that we have the same messaging, or, we're not having like conflicting messaging.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So we supply the messaging to the digital team. Let's just put them under the umbrella of digital team. So they know that the client is doing service drive. And as you saw, there's only a handful of offers that we use. So luckily for them, they don't need to copy and paste, 27 different offers, right? So from the standpoint of consistency, I think we can achieve that if we don't already today. As far as targeting exclusions, I'll just be honest with you, I hadn't thought of that myself, but it's a good thought. It's not hard to do, as you know. We at the end of the day, these things are list driven, right? So as you know, you can apply a list to Google targeting. You can do it in a number of different buckets. So I'm thankful you asked that question, because it's not something I had really thought of too much, but it is easy to apply.
Got it. Thank you. Awesome. So in terms of, some of the questions I typically like to know for my own knowledge are things like, churn rate or dealer feedback. But with this product being so new, I'm sure you don't have a ton of that information right now.
Yeah, 0% turn. We're kicking butt here. No, don't have a ton of feedback. I will tell you though, I was, because I was the spearhead of this thing, I was hyper concerned about that. Especially with like Bill Penny and, John Plitcher called me about Gastonia. I've dealt with Chris before in the past. So it's kind of funny, some of the stores that have signed up, because I've dealt with these people before. So I don't think they know that I'm doing this, but with that being said, just trying to protect my own identity and my reputation, I was always concerned. Having said that though, 5 months now into this deal, we haven't had a cancellation yet, thankfully. And the initial reports that I've seen back, which I'll share those examples. Granted, of course, that's not representative of everybody. But the initial reports back have been good. We have a big group. Are you familiar with VBM out in, like, they're part of Gulf states, but they're in Texas? Have you ever heard of them?
I've heard of them.
The point is the operator there is pretty intense. I'll just say that. And even he was complimentary of it. So it's certainly not a great sample size to work off of, but number one, having not taken cancellations, and number two, having gotten feedback from some pretty tough dealers, that's positive. I would say we're in okay shape. It's not referenceable or anything at this point. I don't have like a catalog of people that would scream from the rooftops and say that this thing is bulletproof, but the limited amount of dealers we have that are using it seem to be satisfied up to this point.
That's great. Congratulations. I mean, it seems like, you've thought through a lot of current points and friction, and, thought through just how to really support the dealers and be strategic about it. So this is great.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the feedback.
Perfect. So I know that I asked a lot of questions on my end, so I'll take a pause, take a sip of water, and open up the floor. Dean or Maddie, if they have any questions as well.
I think I'm good on this side, but thank you.
Yep, same here. Thank you guys.
Awesome. So appreciate the time, Danny. This is really great. Congratulations on the Service Drive platform. One thing, I mean, you did say the C word a couple of times, but I didn't hear you say fluid the whole entire time. So I'm very proud of you. You should also be very proud of yourself.
Bonus points.
Hey, listen, I'm so tired of this stupid thing. The mere mention of it gives me agita. I had to write it in an email today talking about the Postal Service, because obviously we're looking at the Postal Service. So yeah, I try not to use it in my vocabulary, but I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I was listening. I had my COVID buzzword bingo out, and I was ready to, fill in the check boxes, but you did a good job.
Hey, listen, uncertain times and unprecedented time, I can throw them all at you. I just choose not to do so. But
yeah.
I'll get this over to you.
Giggle.
In fact, you're probably going to want this in PowerPoint. I hope the video will work if I send it to you that way. So let me download this copy. I'll zing it over to you. And like I mentioned, let me know if it's legible, and if you can't read it, it's a massive file. Let me send you the PDF first. Let me know if that works. And then
okay.
if you need, I'll get you examples of the video, and I'll just get you whatever you need. Just let me know what you need. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, perfect. So just to recap, so if we could get a copy of the PowerPoint or a PDF, whatever file is easier to send, some creative examples.
Yeah.
And then just a snapshot of the reporting as well.
Yep. I've got 2 of the 3 ready to go now. So I'll send you those now. And then I have to work with some folks remotely to get you some creative and whatnot, but we'll get that taken care of too.
No major rush. And then in terms of SCT clients that are currently utilizing this, you said Gastonia and Bell Penny, correct?
Yeah. For those of you listening, do y'all know of any others aside? I know there's one more. I just can't think of it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Okay, I'll find out.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, very good. Well, we'll give you all 10 minutes back in your day, but we really appreciate the time. Thank you so much, everybody, for jumping on. This is great. Really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through it.
Yeah, somebody just stole the 10 minutes too, because I just got an invite for something else. So the 10 minutes you were gracious enough to give, somebody just robbed away from me. So let me jump for that, unfortunately, but let me zing this over to you now while it's fresh on my brain, and then I'll get you a roster. I think there's one more that I'm forgetting, but at a minimum, I know Penny and Gastonia use it. But let me get you that. And then I'll try to get you some better examples of the files. Okay?
Okay, great. Appreciate it.
All right. Good talking to y'all. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye-bye.